Welcome. This is Richard Hosnote, and I want to welcome you to the Innovation Best Practices episodes, where every episode is designed to help you sell more and make more from your innovation program using only proven and practical innovation best practices that I believe can work for virtually any business and any innovation need. I want to give a special welcome to our listeners around the world, now over 104 countries. Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at a research report on the future of innovation. It's from an organization called CLSA, and as hard as I worked to try and figure out what that stood for, I couldn't figure it out. That's what they call themselves. It's a very, very extensive research report on the future of innovation, especially with a focus on Asia and the United States. So I wanted to share this with you. Okay. The research results suggest that innovation in the United States remains strong, but innovation efforts in China and India are closing the gap with the United States. The potential sources for innovation breakthroughs are changing. Take note. Economics and technology are increasingly influencing innovation focus and results. So let's dive in. I'm going to use a lot of direct quotes from the report here so that you can get it straight. First quote, bubbles, crashes, and recessions in the 2000s are the outcome of a multi-decade technology supercycle. A connected, empowered world compels American organizations to embrace creative, destructive change and to adopt new, open, lightweight innovation models. The coming decade will look different, but innovation will create growth opportunities for startups as well as established companies. Aging demographics, ubiquitous connectivity, and powerful nanotech, computational and scientific advances will shape the trajectory of innovation across all industries. There's a lot in here in what I've just said about new methods of innovation, especially lightweight, more open approaches to innovation. That's already happening. We know that well. And that there's a lot of scientific advances that are going to shape the trajectory of future innovation. And that's really been going on for some time already. The USA leads in key innovation metrics across industries, but progress has been slipping as China and India and other developing countries increasingly engage the global marketplace. However, American R&D spending, patent activity, and innovative output remain strong, particularly in the IT and the life sciences. So, USA has a very strong position, but China and India, and they're not the only ones. There's other countries that are experiencing brighter and brighter sparks of innovation. So to the extent that innovation becomes more worldwide, I think the world will be a better place. Cloud computing and the mobile internet extend a digital infrastructure that lowers barriers to innovation and accelerates the pace of change. This has really been, cloud computing, a very big thing in many ways today, really is having far more of an impact on innovation than I estimated it would when it first started. Continuing with the quote, meanwhile, the American venture capital ecosystem continues to foster the rise of new industries, businesses, and opportunities for job creation. This in the United States, and I'm not aware of it in other countries, so I pardon my ignorance on this, but the venture capital ecosystem that's referred to here is really a great source for funding those bigger innovation ideas and has many successes and of course many failures, which are part of this whole process. But it's an integral, the venture capital system and structure is integral to our global innovation success. Continuing, open source, the cloud, mobility, and commoditization of hardware and software and bandwidth provide the catalyst to create value and accelerate innovation, all facilitated by software. This is, there really has been in many ways a commoditization of hardware and software, especially hardware. the differences between them are not terribly great. There certainly are some differences when it comes to the Apple world and Microsoft a little bit with its Surface product, but essentially all the features that you can get from a hardware perspective are there. Software also becomes a differentiating factor, but again, it can become a bit ubiquitous. Again, open source and the cloud are important aspects of where innovation is and where it's going to continue to grow. Continuing, however, there are challenging obstacles. The venture funding model is under pressure from volatile markets and declining funding. When the stock markets and capital markets experience flux and everything, it does put challenges on this venture funding model. Continuing, policymakers need to address a looming spectrum shortage of bandwidth and everything, immigration restrictions and regulatory expansion that jeopardize innovation, while overly aggressive patent litigation threatens startups as well as established companies. There's a lot going on in this particular statement. Spectrum is becoming more and more competitive. You see the bidding when spectrum becomes available. Immigration restrictions, and especially in certain talent and skill areas, become a challenge. Regulatory expansion has always been a bit of an issue to varying degrees. And aggressive patent litigation can certainly act as a stifling, to a certain extent, people wanting to invest in intellectual property development. Continuing, America is struggling with a difficult economy, persistent high employment, and contentious policy debates. The country's manufacturing base has been eroded by aggressive, lower cost, and increasingly sophisticated competition from Asia. This is really an ongoing trend, as we know. Global rankings and competitiveness have slipped from regulatory creep as financial capital markets activity, particularly IPOs, has migrated to Hong Kong, London, and other centers. Yeah, this is increasingly diversifying where this sort of activity is going on. And again, people in the United States may see this as not a positive factor. Quite frankly, I see it as overall a positive factor of diversifying this sort of support and activity for innovation. Continuing, mounting concerns over structural deficits at the federal, state, and local levels loom large, while lack of demand and tenuous business confidence continue to weigh on job creation. This has become a little bit less so in the United States. I mean, this is all relative. Europe and some other countries, Japan is certainly struggling with a number of these elements. So it's there, and it's something that we need to be aware of as innovators. Continuing, in the wake of the premature passing of Apple's visionary CEO Steve Jobs, the role of innovation as a driving force in the U.S. economy and its transformative global societal impact comes once again into focus. Innovation is not pure invention, but a broader drive towards creating value. You know I'm a big believer in innovation around value, which is the combination of the benefits you receive and the price you pay for it. Innovations can be disruptive, but predominantly they are sustaining, non-disruptive, and incremental. This has been true for some time, and it's the second part of it, quite frankly, that tends to reduce the innovation success rate, namely sustaining, non-disruptive. Continuing, technology-enabled lightweight innovation is recasting the VC, venture capital, ecosystem, paving the way for a flood of internet startups, but much sustaining innovation is evolutionary in nature. Again, continuing, John Seeley Brown of Deloitte's Center for the Edge have framed the concept of a big shift, finding a nearly 75% decline in companies' return on assets, ROA, since 1965. The rise of a digital infrastructure consisting of steadily cheaper bandwidth, storage, and computing power is the single largest driver transforming the competitive dynamics of business and challenging even the best performing companies. something to take note of. It's probably this to me is the return on assets aspect of this is always important because assets often involve capital investments, and the return that you get on them is important consideration in making sure that any debt and everything that's associated with that is paid off. So an important thing here, but I think it's probably more important for larger companies than smaller ones. Continuing with the big shift comment. The big shift is having a profound and permanent impact on firms in most industries. In their Shift Index, Hagel and Brown highlight several findings that frame the challenges and mounting performance pressures faced by U.S. companies driven by the big shift that are not cyclical in nature. There has been widespread deterioration in ROA, we just discussed that, return on assets, with two exceptions being aerospace and defense and healthcare, notably the two most regulated industries. Interesting observation there. Continuing in a different direction, companies in leadership positions have seen the competitive topple rates double, reflecting the increasingly precarious status of market winners. It's another way of saying if you don't have a even if you're a market leader and you don't have a continuous innovation program and you don't have a certain portion of that innovation program focused on disrupting yourself and disrupting competitors, if you don't, you could be toppled. Increases in labor productivity have failed to stem the decline in ROA. This is particularly pronounced in the technology and telecom, which has seen some of the most dramatic improvements. The biggest beneficiaries of productivity gains are not companies themselves, but their top creative talent and customers. Innovation, as traditionally defined by product or process, has not been able to offset these declines in return on assets. Here's some quick concluding thoughts on my part. As always, the world of innovation is in a constant state of flux. The factors change from time, but they don't change overnight. And that's what this report points to in many ways. The macro challenges and opportunities are many, global and financial, for example. The successful innovator of the future will have a focus on the macro picture, namely the big picture, cultural trends, societal trends, all kinds of trends, as well as the more micro view of a particular category or type of product opportunity. Increasingly in this rapidly changing world, innovators would do well not to get so zeroed in on their own particular innovation that they fail to understand the broader context in which that innovation is going to appear, namely the world and the customers and what's happening to them. So you need this combination of macro and micro view. And if you'd like to get more innovation best practices, all you need to do is go to my website, i2ge.com. That's the letter I, number 2ge.com. On the menu bar on the left, just click on DIY Innovation Training, Do-It-Yourself Innovation Training. Click on it. A whole bunch of training programs will pop up. If there isn't one there that meets your exact needs, just email me. I'd be glad to tailor one for you. What I'm trying to do here is make you innovation self-sufficient. And by doing this and helping you develop a world-class innovation program in your own enterprise, you don't need to pay expensive consultants like me and others to do it for you. Another resource is one of the 6 books that I published. This book is titled Proven and Practical Innovation That Delivers Results. It's available only at Amazon in a paperback and Kindle version. It's priced below my break-even cost, so it's a great value. If you have suggestions, comments, or requests, I love hearing from listeners, so just send me an email at richard@i2ge.com. I look forward to hearing from you. In the next episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite books, and we're going to talk about innovation and blue ocean strategy. If you're in the innovation business at all, you've hopefully heard of blue ocean strategy. This next episode is going to provide an overview of some of the insights from that book. But if you haven't read it, this is one you want to read. It's a true, proven path to breakthrough innovation. So please make sure that you listen in. As all of you know, I'm deeply appreciative of you taking time out of a busy day to spend it with me. I look forward to reconnecting with you soon, and until then, please have a great day.